turn on the camera yourself. And yeah. And it's interesting in the new Homecoming that they're showing old confessionals of me that I've never seen before of how I felt about certain situations. So that's just like, oh my gosh, I'm dying right now. You know?
Are you dying as you watch this?
Oh, it's hard. It's hard for me to watch. I'm gonna be very honest. It's really, really hard for me to watch. I mean, imagine seeing, video of yourself from almost 30 years ago that you've never seen, and you're seeing it at the same time that the whole world is seeing it. It's hard. It's hard to watch.
How much? Because I mean, we've seen some unaired footage. Like, how much of it, like, is there a lot of stuff they're just kind of throwing at you guys? You're like, oh my God, this is just unaired. I've never seen this before.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, the fans are gonna love it. I think there's just so much new stuff and revisiting old things, great things, and not so great things. It's definitely a roller coaster ride in the real world Los Angeles house.
Did you, and then we'll get to all this homecoming stuff. Like, was it an easy transition for you? Like when you first went into the house, like, cause there was one incarnation on the air, like you were in LA production, like you kind of, but you know what I mean? Like, did you kind of know what you were doing, or were you just like, this is so strange, like with these cameras? And
no, I mean, I was, I was very self-conscious of how I looked. I mean, look, back then in the 90s, like all the women were like super skinny and had boob jobs. And they, everybody looked like they were on Baywatch. You walk down the street in LA, that's how all the girls looked. I didn't look like that. Like I look the same, almost the same now as I did then. And I wasn't, I was not Baywatch material then, and I'm not Baywatch material now. So I was not comfortable with that back then. And so, yeah, I was super, super insecure for sure.
well,
Tami, Tami is this beautiful woman. And to see her like just not secure in her looks, I was like, wow. This girl is beautiful. And like, she's getting her jaw wired shut. She thinks she's overweight. Are you kidding me right now? Like, oh, what am I going to do?
And that was really before like lots of people got their jaws wired shut. As she said, it is true. Like you never heard of that back at that time, really. Not that I think the majority of human beings get their jaws wired shut, but we know lots of people who have since done so. Well, your first time around, there was this whole, you're the troublemaker, you're the instigator, your roommates don't like you. You've even done interviews where you said, you even said now, like, why doesn't everyone like me? Like, how much did that play into you coming back? Like, was that a motivation for you to want to go back into the house now?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, people, the producers asked me, well, why do you think they didn't like you? Like, I have no idea. I really don't know why people didn't like me. Like, okay, the first day we were there, like my hopes was that we were going to be able to like go out and have fun, like we could go to like concerts and go to the Roxbury and, go to cool house parties. And so I got invited to a house party. Like the first day I'm like, hey, there's this really great party in Beverly Hills. Let's go. And, everybody reluctantly said, okay. And we went, and unfortunately we got kicked out. But I mean, we got kicked out because of the cameras. We got kicked out because of the cameras. Okay. So, I mean, I had good intentions. I mean, do you think I really wanted to drive in the rain, like all the way from Venice Beach to Beverly Hills to get totally humiliated and kicked out of a party? Like, haha, like I'm not a comedian. Like I wanted to have fun. And that just immediately got people upset. Dominic and Aaron, like they wanted nothing to do with me after that. And so I was like, oh man.
I think it's so funny. Like I think it was Andre from The Real World New York who was here who said like, I think he had a similar situation. Like, can you imagine like getting kicked out of a place now because their cameras, they would be like, come on in.
Oh, for sure. They would be, it would be like a totally different thing. But back then people were like, oh my God, cameras? Like what is going on?
They're like, please don't bring those into our house.
Yeah.
how, I mean, so was that a big part of you wanting to go back, or like were there other, like why did you want to go back now? Or was it just like, hey, this is fun, like you live in LA, like you're local?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to go back because I have so many unresolved issues with a lot of my roommates. Like I barely know them besides John. I really don't know my roommates that well, and we definitely left on a sour note. And the whole David situation, like I feel terrible about that whole thing, and I just really thought that it's going to be a good time for us to heal and talk through things. And now that we're older and we've lived life, we could actually enjoy each other, and maybe we can plant some seeds and build on a new friendship, like real friendships. So
Totally.
that's kind of what I'm hoping for here.
We've all mellowed now that we're older, right? I mean,
Yeah.
was that like, did that weigh on you throughout the years, the whole David situation, like what we're now seeing? Like, was that like, did you feel responsible for that in part or in whole? Like, what, like, how have the years been for you as far as that goes?
I mean, look, it was really controversial, obviously, and a lot of people have talked about it over the years. People have written things, and to go back and kind of like break down everything. I mean, people think that I did not say, David, you are a rapist. That is not what I said. And Irene actually said something about rape first. And then David said something to me. And in response to what he said to me, I said, that's something that a rapist says. No means no. So I used it as an analogy. I did not say you are a rapist. It was very heated. David was very aggressive. He did a lot of things before that incident. So he didn't get kicked out just because of that incident. It was because he really didn't have any boundaries. And, he choked John and flipped him over the chair on the third day we were living together. And that night, pulling the blankets off of Tami, and then taking off his pants in front of us. I mean, that's scary. I don't want to live with somebody that's being that aggressive. So, we just didn't feel comfortable living with him. Did I want to ruin his career? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So yeah, look, I feel terrible about what happened, but I did not make David do all the things that he did while we were living together. He's got to be responsible for his actions. But I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I used that word as an analogy. I regret it. And if I could take it back, I would, but I can't.